right, guys, welcome to Talkabout Ep.3. Today, we are talking about
I shouldn't have sold that.
gear regret. As musicians and gearheads, we all have stuff that we've both bought and sold that we wish we hadn't gotten rid of.
We're finicky creatures. We have impulses. We see new gear. We want it. How are we gonna get it? We gotta trade the old gear, and sometimes it's great. A lot of time, most of the time, I feel like for me, I choose very carefully. Everything's going well.
Sure.
And every now and again, you look back and you're like, really?
It was a really good overdrive or something where you're like, where you see it in a video later and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that one.
For me, it's like, what I'm currently recording, maybe I don't need that sound anymore. I'm like, I don't need that sound. Forget it.
Yes.
And then, several years later, all of a sudden you need to make that sound. You're like, oh, shoot.
I know, and it's
Really?
just gone. But it's funny, right? Because you kind of associate things, like you get a character of a tone in your head, and you know it comes from a specific pedal. But it's so funny that we form relationships around like that sound, and it goes into your mental library, and you get to like check it, and you're like, I need that exact sound right now, So I think we're gonna start out. We've got a couple examples that we have with us of literal things.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I think you should go first.
So, in my youth, I was a bit of a brand snob. I got caught up on brands, especially for guitars in particular.
We all do, yeah.
So I was playing in this hard rock band in New York, a stoner rock, a little wolf mothery, called Black Bear Tribe.
Nice. It's a cool name.
Rippin', yeah, it was pretty rippin'. Great lead vocalist, and I played lead guitar, and so that was a Les Paul kind of band, and I really, really wanted a Les Paul, and that was gonna be the sound. But I was struggling to make do in the city. And so I had this Epiphone Les Paul Custom, so it was just like $300, out of a Guitar Center. But it was a great guitar, played well, but it didn't do everything I wanted it to do. And as a gift for my birthday one year, my dad was like, "Hey, if you want to, make some modifications to this to get it to be like the guitar that you want to be, to do your thing in your band, I will pay for that." Very generous of him.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
So it was all black. I had the refinish so that just the front was white, but it was a nitro finish.
Very cool.
So as it was gonna age, into that kind of faded cream. And the reason why I wanted to do this is it was Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads had like that tuxedo Les Paul Custom.
Yeah.
Les Paul Custom, and Mick Ronson,
yes,
from David Bowie.
Oh man, that's the sound.
Had that same finish.
Definitely.
That was part one. It had we put Lindy Fralin humbuckers in there, which sounded amazing.
Nice.
To put 2 coil taps, and the big thing was that I wanted to do like dive bombs and whammy stuff. And so we didn't put a Floyd, because the Floyd you have to go all the way through the guitar.
And Floyds are just a pain.
But we put a Kahler, which has all the same action as a Floyd, which, by the way, some people are probably cringing right now because this is like
it's a love-hate.
Like a lot of people do believe intrinsically like not to put a tremolo on a Les Paul.
Well, I mean, you would, you wouldn't think.
Yeah, but the thing about a Kahler is that is the Robert Fripp thing, is a Kahler on a Les Paul, so King Crimson.
Yes.
And you just have to make you just have to kind of cut out a little rectangle to fit the unit in there. Okay. So anyway, so like all gold hardware, gold Kahler, Lindy Fralin, coil tap, custom finish.
Oh my goodness.
And it sounded like and played like everything I ever wanted. But at the end of the day, it was still an Epiphone.
Yeah.
And so I was always self-conscious.
Yeah.
But the fact that it wasn't a Gibson.
Sure.
And then a few years later, actually, believe it or not, this is actually kind of the crazy part of the story. I won a giveaway, like an online giveaway from Premier Guitar.
It's amazing, which never happens. Yeah, incredible.
So I won this Sadowski jazz box.
Oh, okay.
Which was like, it was really beautiful, incredibly beautiful guitar. It was it was a $4,000 custom made jazz box. Beautiful guitar, but I was playing hard rock. I'm not going to use a jazz box.
No way.
So I was like, okay, what can I trade this for? And so I ended up trading it for a 1978 Gibson Les Paul Custom.
Like the real deal. Wow, okay.
So I was so stoked
finally have a Gibson.
A Gibson. So, of course, I was like, well, I don't need this Epiphone anymore.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do with that? So I sold it and traded it, got other gear, got pedals, got another good I got some cheaper Strat, whatever.
Sure.
And all these years later, I'm like, oh my god, like that guitar. First, it played and sounded better than the Gibson.
Well, there's
And it was a cooler finish. The Gibson was like a wine red, which was okay.
So
but, like,
medium.
it wasn't this,
That's like
it wasn't this like killer tuxedo that was gonna fade with time. And not only that had the sentimental value of that, like my dad wanted to like help me out.
You customize it yourself.
And I
like,
just
and
I was just such a little snob about the brand name.
Sure.
That I got rid of it, and I'm like, damn. Looking back, I don't know why. Oh, and by the way, even though we put in probably close to $1,000 of customization, it's still, when I sold it, it only sold for like
$300.
Like $500.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
Well, oftentimes it's not worth it, right? Because we were just talking about this. Is like oftentimes the upgrades that you put into an instrument like that don't even factor into the sale price. So you're not going to get anything more out of it.
Right. So hot tip.
Yeah.
Now, anytime I do, because I change up pickups a lot in my guitars.
Yeah.
It's always a better idea financially to put the original pickups back, sell the aftermarket pickup separately, and sell the guitar separately, because you're never gonna get extra for the upgrades. You just don't.
They don't.
In my experience, you never do.
But I feel that I definitely like see that happening. Like that's the buying industry. Like you're always gonna lose a bit of it. I just I don't know. I just think anytime you're gonna trade it in, take off the hardware. Like take off the upgrades. Take off the hardware.
Yeah.
Sell it separately. Has more value that way.
So anyway, the end of this tale is that years later, I moved out here. I started my current band, which is a lot more indie rock focused. Switched to Fenders, and weird vintage stuff. And that the Gibson I got was, like I said, the wine red, like dark, like it was a stoner metal, like heavy metal Les Paul. So I ended up trading that. Yeah. Which I actually don't even regret that, because that, at the end of the day, that wasn't even that great of a guitar.
Yeah, like you just need to move on.
But where I've been left now recently, especially since we've started the channel and we have a focus on a lot of heavy tones. Yeah. I've been really missing having a Les Paul.
Yes.
So
thick sound. Yes.
So this is kind of my band-aid for that. Some of you may have seen from our Instagram, is that I got this Supro Silverwood, which is all mahogany. I believe it's all one piece. Set neck. Yeah. And it's absolutely killer, and it's totally like a Les Paul killer. Yeah. For the money, this is like so much guitar. Yes. I mean, I have to say, it's like probably the most guitar you can get for the money. It's Indonesian made, but it's like set up
very high quality, like
super high quality, set up perfect.
Everything was perfect.
Satin neck. It has these really interesting gnarly gold foil single coil pickups. Considering switching out the bridge for a humbucker to get those like more Les Paul tones, we'll see. But it's just funny how we circle around the same sound.
It's so true.
And so hopefully I will be smart enough not to trade this one.
Yeah. Maybe sticking with the Super brand does not seem to be a bad decision, because both of them are really really
so
nice.
So also from last week, as you can tell, I'm becoming a Supro fanboy.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I think they just make really good guitars.
They make really great guitars for really good value.
I would say these are pro level for sure. Like you could gig with these like immediately, like right off the rack.
100%.
And now that we actually just saw today too, there's a bunch of new finishes that they're doing on the Silverwoods. There's a trans blue, like a Daphne blue or Sonic blue that look really nice. Yeah. So they're doing all kinds of different woods too, right?
Right. So there's either for this model, the Silverwood, it's either mahogany or I believe ash.
Got it.
Really cool. And we mentioned last week that the brand actually got bought by D'Angelico, and I was discussing it with some friends, and it's kind of questionable what's going to happen with their line of guitars. I think for sure D'Angelico is going to continue the amps, because the amps have become huge and they've sold really well, have become backlines in a lot of venues. But the guitars, like I mentioned last week, haven't really taken off. So it's very possible that D'Angelico will just discontinue the guitars.
Oh, wow.
In which case the value of these is probably in time going to go way up. So hot tip.
Because they just sound great, and
they play
your
great.
hands on it. They're really nice. Wow, that's crazy. So the whole Les Paul. I mean, I think
so. That's my Les Paul quest.
But I think that's a very classic story. I mean, mine isn't very involved, but like when I was in college, I got a 60th Anniversary Stratocaster.
Oh,
It was Aztec silver or whatever that like flake silver finish is. The neck was darker. It was stained like a darker color, so it was like it wasn't like yellow, but it was like a darker kind of color than a neck normally is.
Yeah.
But no rose.
With like a lacquer finish or.
It was I think it was a lacquer finish, but it was. It just felt nice. Like it didn't feel like a standard neck finish. Like they'd done something to it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Cool.
But when I bought it from Guitar Center for like $350. It was a deal. They had like the zero friction nut on there, so it has like 2 balls on either side and it supports the strings. Sure. Really nice sounding pickups, and I played that for so long. But I think what happens, especially with something like a Strat, that has a very signature sound, you kind of get bored of like the stratiness after a while.
Because like a Strat sounds like a Strat.
Always, like pretty much always, right? And I think at the time I was just trying to play something different, and I ended up trading in probably for a Les Paul or a style guitar because I was like, oh, this is too plucky. Like I want to play like harder tones. But in retrospect, like that was such a gold find that I should have just hung on to, even if it was for parts or whatever, because it just looked great. It sounded awesome. Like, I just haven't found a Strat that I've really connected with on that level since.
And something we've talked about recently is that now these days it's like, for me, way more important than a brand, way more important than a model, is just if an individual instrument is resonant, it plays well, sounds good. They're also, because each individual instrument can vary so greatly.
It's wider than you'd think. I think, right?
And so at the end of the day, it's like if something speaks to you, I don't really care where it's from or what it did.
My current favorite guitar that I own right now is a Jackson Warrior. It's a really cheap guitar that's a unique, very strange body. I've been playing this thing so much, it's like literally what I reach for.
And if it makes you play, then it's worth owning.
Exactly. It's one of those things where as long as you like it. But I think going back to another point you made there is resonance. I think when you buy a guitar, one thing that I look for, and maybe you do the same thing, is like just strum it and then like feel the guitar
on your body.
Yeah, literally like have it up on you and then strum it. If you can't feel the vibrations in the neck, and if you can't feel the vibrations out of the body, it doesn't ring, move on to a different guitar. Find something else, because it really has to have that vibration and that sense that kind of makes you more acquainted with the instrument. And you guitar players out there will know what I mean. When you find the one, you find the one. But I think a lot of it's in that physical. How resonant is the instrument just on its own? If you don't feel that when you play it through a chord or something, move on.
And you get if you want to get really particular. One time I saw a video about Steve Vai and like the gems, and his particular like number one gem that he uses called Evo. It's white. He hand selected the body and neck pieces from the Ibanez factory by like tapping them and making sure they were at the same resonant frequency.
Oh my gosh.
So that would be like the whole thing would resonate together. And apparently, so like that happens if you're.
But that's the whole thing with tone was, right? It's like, does it? It might. Like it might. I'm not gonna say it won't. Yeah. Like I think there's definitely a wisdom to that. So that so a Strat. So we have our Strat and our Les Paul. So I'm gonna show you guys a few pedals too that I let go. So there's a company called Mr. Black out of Portland. Yeah. That I absolutely love. Super cool company. They got me into pedals basically. Oh. Cool. Like it was the first, like the one I remember buying like boutique was the Supermoon, which is a big old reverb from Mr. Black. But I've had a couple of their other pedals throughout over time. I recently repurchased a pedal they have called the JDS 50 and then sold it again. But that was another that was kind of chasing that sound. Yeah. I ended up getting with a different pedal. But something like the Thunderclaw, I bought this before. I bought it in a different finish. It was called Scorpion Milk, where it was where the whole thing was black with yellow accents instead of the other way around. Yeah. But it's a high gain distortion. It's kind of like an old doomy kind of sound. Cool. But a bunch of players I like, it keeps showing up on their board. So Rabia Masad has one on his.
Is this supposed to be like a heavy metal? Like a Boss heavy metal?
Something like that, I think.
Because that's the same color scheme.
It might be related. I don't know. Yeah. Mr. Black, when he designs stuff, he likes to stay away from the comparisons to like things that exist.
Okay, Mr. Black.
No. But you can right. But you can kind of figure it out. This to me is like a cranked like solid state or something, like a very doomy Black Sabbath sound
situation.
Not solid state necessarily, but maybe like an old like a 70s doom sound, if that makes sense. Yeah, so more of an overdrive than necessarily distortion. Right, I know this as like high gain whatever, but This was one that I specifically found that I was like,
Right.
you know what? I just want to have this in my collection. Like, I need this back. So this is one I rebought.
Right.
In a different finish, obviously. This one's still just as nice. But the other one is the Rev G3. Because I bought this before, I played it for a little bit and was like, yeah, it's too specific. I'm going to get rid of it. But it was the one that I thought about the most.
Yeah.
I kept watching videos on it. I kept going back and being like, yeah, but it doesn't sound like this sounds.
Yep.
It has a very specific, you guys heard, I think from our first video. Has a very specific high gain tone that's like a fuzz distortion thing. And I've only ever really found it in this pedal. So I definitely rebought the Rev G3.
Nice.
I had to kind of have that in my collection.
Very cool.
Are there any that you've let go that you still opine
Yeah,
or you
so
think
actually,
about?
so it's funny that you're mentioning that Mr. Black was like your gateway to boutique pedals. My gateway to boutique pedals was through Pigtronix.
Yeah.
Which we have to do an episode.
We're going to do an episode.
We will. Yeah, we will. I actually took a pedal building workshop.
Nice.
Like when I was 18, at this like guitar camp in Connecticut.
As you do.
And the owner of the company, Dave Coltai, was running the workshop. So we built the whole thing. Was you were learning about pedals and like watching through oscilloscopes like what pedals do to waveforms.
And like actually seeing the wave.
Yeah,
wow, that's cool.
Which we should actually maybe do.
If we can get our
borrow
hands
my
on
dad's
one.
oscilloscope. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Totally do
has
that.
one. Yes.
He's an engineer. Just so you know.
Just so.
And then the culmination of the course was that we built a pedal. And so we built these custom polysaturators, which is a Pigtronix distortion pedal. That was like a custom color and like had like extra switching options and stuff.
That's so cool. What?
And it was really cool. And the sound of it, I just kind of moved away from the sound of it. It was just the particular setup of my pedal board at the time. Like it wasn't really my vibe. And I should have kept it just for sentimental reasons because it was like the first pedal I ever built.
Sure.
But because it was this custom, really, there's only they only ever made like 11 for the 11 people in the class.
Right.
So I got a lot of money for it.
That's amazing. You're
got,
like one of a kind.
Yeah, so I got a lot of money for it. So I ended up trading it, but I just shouldn't have traded it.
I know. Well, some things like we're discovering, I think sometimes you really have to think about the sentimental value
as
alongside.
Well,
the
I guess those are both of my stories are sentimental. Yeah.
But for me too, it was but a lot of it was for one or the other, and I regret it for sentimental reasons, not necessarily for a money thing.
Right.
Right. It's like, or I want it for a purpose or something. So I think that's a really big thing. When you go to sell gear, think about how much something means to you. I think before. And
there's part of me that tries not to be too precious.
Sure.
And I try to be like, if I'm not using this, I should like
Marie Kondo that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do try to have a kind of a Marie Kondo thing. Yeah. Honestly.
All jokes aside.
For real, but and for most of the time, that's totally fine. But I think for certain sentimental things, I really you're gonna miss it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Total sidebar, I should mention.
Yes.
Pigtronix is under the umbrella of Apsara Audio Company, which is Supro.
Oh, okay. So
they have Supro and Pigtronix.
They're all related.
So I'm a fanboy.
Is it upstate New York?
From Long Island.
From Long Island.
Port Jefferson.
Very cool.
Port Jefferson, New York.
Very cool. Yeah. So like a real New York like homegrown thing.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Awesome.
100%.
That's awesome.
And the owner Dave is just like this rad like deadhead, cool.
That's who you want.
Really cool guy that just knows good tone and like has a really good team of people working with him and
good ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And everything you've played, I mean, you can hear it on the Maris video too. Everything that we've done, like delay-wise, at least from Sam's rig, has been through mostly Pigtronix stuff.
Just awesome pedal.
Oh, that thing! The stuff you've shown me on that, I think that it does is just incredible.
We'll go deep on that one.
It's so incredible. And we might also have some opportunities to kind of dig into maybe some other like cool delays and things from Massachusetts builders and people around here, right? So
absolutely.
Source Audio and a few others. So stay tuned for that. I think that's something that we have
all
coming
good
up.
Things to come.
Definitely.
If you haven't yet, please subscribe.
Yes.
Give us a little like.
And also, we have in this week we do have a surprise on the episode that will be
right.
following this. We got our hands on a very unique,
very rare pedal. We had a really cool opportunity to work with a local music store. And so hopefully that partnership is going to continue. So we'll have an even wider range of pedals to show y'all.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So stay tuned for this week, and we will
see you next
time.
video.
Take care, guys.
Ciao.